How many times have we heard this in our business, right? Can we not just build this ourselves? Can we not just reuse another system, the CRM, for our suppliers? Can we not just use the existing ERP and Excel for this? Why should we invest? What's the ROI, right? I want to help everybody in this session to get ahead of some of these things that might stop you in your tracks before you even get started. So what I'm offering up here is some opportunities to some frameworks, some ammunition, some language that you guys can be able to utilize, of course, in those conversations internally. So let's take these one by one, starting with objection number one. How many times have we heard this? Well, why would we pay another subscription fee? We could just, reuse our Microsoft apps internally. Sure, maybe so. You could build. With that being said, I think that the era of build versus buy is kind of no longer. It's buy versus buy, right? It's buying, of course, AI technology and trying to build, or for example, it's buying SaaS and AI technology that is from a vendor that has a finished package. I think that the reason we have to be able to combat on the build is very simple. It is time. And the fact is that we don't have time to wait anymore. We saw just now, of course, there is a workload increase. Time to be able to make impact on that workload needs to be able to be reduced, and therefore investment in technology needs to close that efficiency gap. The moment that somebody says that they want to build, let's say that, for example, in January 2026 of this year, a few months ago, the beginning of Q1, somebody said, I want to be able to start a project. You got that thumbs up in IT. Awesome. You are anywhere from 12 to 15 months out at best to being able to actually roll out something and, of course, adopt that in the business. The average enterprise has a 4 to 7 month backlog on new IT. Approval cycles can take 6 to 12 weeks, and IT portfolios for large organizations are typically committed already for 8 to 12 months out, meaning that most of the time, new work, new projects are going to wait. And what's the upkeep afterwards? Building, of course, or choosing to build, quote unquote, can stall out the project before it even gets started. To be able to understand, because of course, building could be right for you, right? But to be able to understand if it is right for you or not, what we're offering up as an asset is a decision-making framework, a very simple point system, as you see on screen here, which allows our network to be able to evaluate, is this right for me? Based upon 3 primary categories. Starting from the bottom, it's the outcome urgency. How quickly do you need to roll something out? Who's going to own it? As well as then also the complexity and risk to doing something or not doing something in that case. This will be an asset that you'll be provided with. So you can, of course, utilize this to not only overcome that objection, but see, of course, where you fit within the area of build versus buy. Objection number 2. Let's just use that sales tool and repurpose it for SRM. Listen, I utilize a CRM on a day-to-day basis. It is my operating system. It is my execution layer. I love my CRM. The bottom line, though, is it's not an SRM technology, because I equally, on the other side, of course, sell our solution to procurement professionals. The day-to-day looks drastically different, and to be able to repurpose is very, very, very unlikely that you can be able to have the same experience on a day-to-day trying to repurpose a CRM versus an SRM. Why? Is because they're built for different stakeholders. They have different end goals in mind. Kodiak Hub looks very different than the strategic goal that HubSpot or Salesforce has. The strategic goal of a CRM is to drive sales and revenue growth and retention, customer lifetime value, whereas the SRM is focused on driving supplier value, helping you to drive performance, reduce risk, ensure compliance, and drive resilience, not revenue. Again, we've put together a framework and a simple rule-based framework, meaning 6 out of 9 of the areas on the right-hand side of the screen, an SRM might be essential for a business of your stature. Whereas if you're on the left-hand side of the screen and not meeting, for example, 6 of the 9 on the right hand, then of course the CRM and repurposing the CRM may be good enough for you as well. The options are there to be able to work through. And again, the asset is going to be there for download at the end of the session. Objection number 3. Hmm. Feels like we already have some of this stuff in our ERP. That's where our supplier data lives already. Why would we need another system? Well, the ERP is a strong and valuable and I would say essential solution to a lot of businesses. The ERP is your data foundation, but it is not an operating system. The ERP and an SRM, they're not combative. They are two peas in a pod when it's all said and done. They are two solutions that can work side by side in parallel and should work in parallel to be able to manage the life cycle of a vendor. ERP's primary objectives and features include things that are that transactional engine, POs, transactional master data, financials, spend. The SRM is the layer on top to manage the life cycle, helping you to have an execution and intelligence layer to actually be able to live in tandem alongside of the ERP that otherwise, for example, is hosting data rather than surfacing insights or allowing you to act upon them, which an SRM is excellent upon. Another decision-making matrix that we've provided to be able to give you an understanding when the ERP and utilizing, for example, maybe homegrown solutions alongside the ERP is good enough versus, for example, when an ERP plus an SRM may in fact be needed. This, of course, again, an asset that will be provided in the slides. Objection number 4, from every CFO at every company during every single budget cycle that has ever existed. Why would we buy a new tool? I get it, right? I see the pain, I see the challenges, but is it really worth the squeeze? Well, I'll remind you, Mr. CFO or Mrs. CFO, the procurement workload is expected to increase by 8%. And alongside that, we're looking to decrease headcount and operating budgets. You've asked me to be able to do more with less, faster. If we continue on the way that we're working, then we're continuing on with a status quo that is not good enough. That's already been indicated. I think that business cases get built so often that are so heavily focused on investment and outcome, ROI. I'd like to introduce a topic of COI, which I think that most of you guys have probably heard in some of our prior webinars. And the cost of inaction is differentiated from ROI in a very distinct way. COI is grounded in the existing inefficiencies and determining if I stay with the status quo, well, this is going to be the outcome. Whereas ROI relies on the projected improvements. COI is today's loss. ROI estimates the potential gains. They're both equally important to be able to show a proper business case to a CFO. With that being said, if we're only focused on the potential of gain, then we are focused on something that is not yet occurring and not yet prevalent within our business. If we're focusing on COI, well, then we are focusing, of course, on the risk of doing nothing. And that is, of course, a lot more central to the way that we're working today. We've put together a COI calculator to be able to view how an SRM solution and a program focused on supplier relationship management and lifecycle management can impact your business from an operational, tactical, and strategic perspective. We have, of course, mirrored this against our capabilities and our solution, albeit this is then what you should expect the value to be provided by any SRM program, any SRM provider that is out there on the market. If they're not able to hit upon these things, well, then they might not be the right SRM provider for you. This is taking an example of a particular business. You could be able to repurpose it for your particular business as well. And of course, the examples are directly there, as well as then also the formula. So now that, of course, we know how to overcome objections, let's get into the steps to be able to go to market.